What is hidden on Oak Island? And as we've already mentioned, this will be trimmed out for people to watch on YouTube. But if you want to listen to the full podcast, there will be a link available in the description below on the video. And if you're listening to us, then you're listening to the full episode. So never mind. What is hidden on Oak Island? Well, firstly, you might be wondering, where is Oak Island? Well, Oak Island is a small island off the coast of Nova Scotia in Canada. Very lovely place, I hear. Never been there. And
send us to Oak Island.
That's our next
Support us on Patreon. That's a stretch goal.
But there have been rumors, strong, persistent rumor, for at least the last 200 years that there is treasure hidden on Oak Island. And it all began in 1795.
Bloody good year.
A bloody good year. When Daniel McGuinness was out on the island exploring the pastures, looking for some good farmland, and he noticed a circular depression on the ground in the southeast of the island. And he got some friends around, and when they started digging this little mysterious depression in the ground, they found that every 3 meters below the surface, they came across a layer of oak logs lying across this depression, this pit. And it looked like nearby trees had been cut down, possibly to make pulleys that could lift and lower something into this pit. And since then, it has become known as the Money Pit. And the persistent rumor is that there is treasure hidden down there. And that treasure was put there by none other than the notorious Captain William Kidd, a Scottish privateer convicted and hanged as a pirate in London in 1701, who spent at least 5 years of his life as a probable privateer and then later accused of being a pirate, seizing French and Spanish, I think, ships in the Caribbean and off the south coast of South Africa. I see a map on screen.
I've just put a little image of Oak Island on screen, just so people can see it.
Yeah,
not really too much of a trailer.
Right, yeah. Well, full disclosure, Oak Island. Some of you already mentioned. Actually, in fact, someone in the chat mentioned that they had met the presenters of The Curse of Oak Island, which is amazing. A History Channel TV series that's on its 9th season now. So no spoilers, but they have been looking for something for 9 seasons of TV on Oak Island. What have they found?
Well,
I mean, the thing is, it's not that big of an island, is it? 9 seasons of TV. There are concerns, and I don't think anyone would accuse them of doing this, Robin. There are some concerns that maybe they're stretching out the premise to, get as much out of this TV show as possible. I'm not accusing. I would never say that, but
you would never say that. You would never say that. Yeah.
Well, they've got their license there for 40 years, so we can expect at least another 30 odd seasons. So,
but even in the show, though, they have made some potentially interesting discoveries. Yeah. Before we talk about those, though, I'd just like to mention that there is some credibility to the story, because obviously we all know the myths of buried treasure, but most pirates like Blackbeard or Anne Bonny didn't bury any treasure. It's pure fiction. But William Kidd actually did bury treasure. He's known for it. In fact, they found some on an island further south off the coast of the Americas. Can't remember the island now. I'll just try to find it. But he did actually bury some treasure. He was in the habit of burying treasure to keep it away from his enemies. So if any pirate would have buried treasure on Oak Island, it would have been Captain Kidd. But that's not what they found so far.
No, and that's the thing. And as Bush comments, you've got to think about the credibility of a show that's been there for 9 seasons, and we're very much on board with you that, how much can you rely on a show that obviously is pulling in at least decent ratings, probably still, if they've got a ninth series, and so there's definitely a reason why they're there now.
Well, the Lagina brothers, who are the presenters of the Curse of Oak Island TV show, have been exploring the 140-acre island for the last 10 years at least. And they have found some interesting artifacts, some of them surprisingly old. So they found a lead cross, the little necklace cross, that goes back to possibly the year 1200, which is very early for European Christians to be on the east coast of Canada. And they found, was it a gold brooch with a gem in the middle?
Yeah. So is this the one that was thought to be from Marie Antoinette? Possibly. Yes. There's the theory that the last Queen of France ordered a maid to take her jewels and flee the city before it was overrun by revolutionaries obsessed with cake.
Or lack of it.
Or lack of it, yeah.
Yeah.
And so there's a theory that this brooch that was found on the island once belonged to, was part of the jewellery of the Queen of France. Mm-hmm. And it's unclear how this maid found her way to Nova Scotia.
Yes.
Yeah, that's slightly odd, isn't it?
But this brooch was dated to 500 years, I think, which is interesting. And this was found by, Rick and Marty Lagina? How do you pronounce it?
I don't know. I said Lagina, but that actually could be.
I prefer Lagina, Alex.
Lagina.
Lagina. Yeah, so it's interesting. It's an interesting one.
Yeah. This brooch, though, unfortunately, although it looked beautiful, it's got a red gem in the middle that could be a ruby. Turns out it was just a garnet, which is still not common, not easily affordable for ordinary people, but is much, much, much less rare and expensive than a ruby. So highly unlikely to have been owned by someone like Marie Antoinette.
Right, yeah.
Unless she was
any knockoffs, would she?
No, exactly. She was the Queen of France. She'd have the best of the best. Also, I think it was probably found at the wrong level because Marie Antoinette, of course, died in the late 18th century, not long before Daniel McGuinness found the money pit in 1795. And for her garnet to be found so as deep as they did find it, chances are
doesn't make sense. Doesn't quite add up.
Before her time. Yeah.
Yeah. Have we spoken about the series of stones that was found on the island that could suggest the pirate theory that pirates like William Kidd or Edward Teach or Henry Avery once buried their gold on the island? So there was a series of stones that they found laid out in a particular way that pointed towards the money pit. So it was like a triangle shape, and they thought it was pointed towards the money pit. And that could explain, because there were in the money pit, there were some booby traps, alleged like booby traps that were apparently found or thought that they did exist and work at some point.
Right. My initial question with this is, why would you want to point anyone in the direction if you're the people that know about this and it's your treasure? Who are you trying to?
I don't think it was like.
Who are you trying to riddle here?
Well, I think it's probably in case you needed to send someone to the island to pick it up, you could say look for a particular series of stones.
Follow this, yeah.
But it's probably something that wouldn't be noticed unless they knew what they were looking for.
Perhaps.
You could also follow the stones in the wrong direction, couldn't you? In theory, if it's a triangle, it points in 3 directions.
That's
those who know. Yeah.
I told them isosceles. Why did they make an equilateral triangle?
This is a nightmare.
This is no use to anyone. God damn pirates!
No one will ever find my treasure. We've got some suggestions in the chat. Well, I assume they're suggestions. The notorious Fortean and Doom simply say aliens and follow up with time-traveling aliens.
Nice.
I guess that explains the Marie Antoinette jewel. Is that where the time-traveling aliens comes from? Aliens, of course, put it there.
Or the stones. Bush. Aliens just came to Earth and arranged a little triangle of stones.
It could be. It could have been a rehearsal for the pyramids. Possible. Absolutely.
A tiny little rehearsal in Nova Scotia. And actually, I think we'll go to Egypt now.
Aliens on vacation. The little kids like, I want to make a pyramid. Like, yes, baby. Go and do that there.
So, but it hasn't been without issue, has it? I mean, you spoke about the booby traps, and what was it? The excavations. One of them was pretty early on, wasn't it? 1802, when the Onslow Company took over.
Yeah, specifically to find the treasure there, wasn't it? They took over.
Right.
Yeah.
And they didn't have a great time of it, did they?
No, I don't think they did. What happened to them though?
So they were trying to excavate the area, and the pit flooded with a whole load of water, up to 20 meters of water, supposedly. And they tried to, build in some shafts to stabilize it, and those also flooded. Potentially there was a network of tunnels that existed going from the site of where the treasure's supposed to be to the sea, so it was always going to flood no matter what. So that was thought to potentially be some kind of booby trap. But then you think, if they're going there to try and regain the treasure as well, that's not very helpful for them either. It was always going to be attached to the sea, unless you try and block up those holes.
I guess that's it. If you know the booby traps are there, then presumably you have some way of what's the word? Like diffusing. That's not the right word. But you know what I mean? Countering them, switching them off.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's a lot of work going into that booby trap, though.
To the sea.
Either digging these tunnels to the sea, or the tunnels are naturally there to begin with, and you just dig it in a place, where you have to know where it's buried, otherwise you're going to get flooded. Do you know what I mean?
It's risky.
It seems like a lot of effort and thought has gone into that.
Yeah.
That booby trap. What's wrong with some wooden spikes? What's wrong with just stepping on a rake?
Old school
classics. They work, man.
I think over time there have been quite a few deaths, though, associated with attempts to excavate the money pit, haven't there?
Yeah.
Possibly as a result of some of these booby traps, or maybe just other accidents that have happened in the frankly dangerous process of digging pits deep into the ground. On an island with loose soil and surrounded by water. Stuff is going to go wrong.
Yeah.
So ownership of the island changed hands after this to the Oak Island Association. And in 1861, the original pit was re-excavated with 2 more shafts dug. And one of the platforms at 93 feet collapsed, causing 2 other platforms to give way. And some speculate that this actually buried the treasure even further underground. So these platforms, as they were falling, might have knocked any buried treasure even further underground, and that could be why we still haven't found anything to this day, or any buried treasure. And there was, I think 6 fatalities on the island were also recorded this same year, when a water pump engine exploded, scalding someone to death, and another worker fell into the pit and died. So there have been, I think 6 fatalities on the island so far. I mean, that water pump engine, though, exploding, that seems like an accident that's not really the island's fault.
Well, if it's cursed.
I mean, if it's cursed, then it's a different story entirely.
Yeah.
This island is cursed.
This island is cursed.
And that's sad. It's tragic, really, that 6 people have lost their lives in
off the table.
Ultimately foolhardy attempts to find treasure. I mean, whether or not the treasure is there, they haven't found it. So those 6 people's lives have been spent in vain so far.
That's true. Yeah,
and I think that's very sad. Even if there's truth to the rumors that there's treasure there, it's not worth it.
So,
I mean, I imagine that the current excavators are doing their work slightly differently. It's not as perilous as it was back in the 1860s.
Yeah, and also I wonder, as many people in the comments are alluding to, I wonder if maybe the real treasure isn't buried on the island, but maybe it's broadcast into people's TVs at least once a week. Maybe the real treasure is the TV
worth
show.
Millions.
Worth millions.
Friends we made along the way.
It does sound a bit like that, doesn't it? I mean, one of the things that always gets me about this one is that it's changed hands so many times.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe when you look back at the original owners, they found all the treasure and they're like, I'm not going to tell anyone about this. Like, well, let's get off the island, sell it.
Oh yeah, there could be some treasure there.
Yeah, oh, there might be treasure. We haven't found it, but you have a good go. Meanwhile, they're like putting the chests back onto the boat. Maybe the island's already been, maybe the treasure's already been taken off the island by some early adventurers, and since then everyone's been looking for treasure that's already gone. It's long gone.
In fact,
that's a canny thing to do. That's a good point. Someone might have been clever enough to do that.
Taking it one step further, maybe they actually scattered some artifacts that were actually just a bunch of cheap jewelry and stuff around the island to kind of, when it was just this worthless island in Nova Scotia, just because they wanted to sell it. And this was just like, oh, well, we found some artifacts on the island. You may want to, maybe that's why it's worth buying. There could be some buried treasure here. You know, it's all smoke and mirrors.
There are these stones pointing in a certain direction.
Yeah.
I think other artifacts they found, though, in excavations have been things like a pickaxe head and a boot.
From previous excavations.
Yeah. So, you know, not all the scattered artifacts were that valuable.
True.
But there have been so many excavations now. I'm not just talking about the last 10 years for the History Channel, but there was some in the 1930s, I think, and the 1920s, as well as the 1860s, and of course the early 1800s after the first in the late 18th century, 1700s. And such a small island, as Alex said earlier, you think they would have found it by now. Unless, like you say, it was by one of these accidents, these muddy landslides, buried it even further. And it's just now lost forever because no one knows exactly where the original money pit is, do they? That's the thing. Like the Curse of Oak Island TV show seems to have a pretty good idea, but some of the excavations were done where they thought the money pit was, but actually they were quite a way off.
Yeah, well, I mean, we don't know, but yeah.
The original records of where the money pit exactly was have been lost.
In the chat, Hey Now Paulie says, I think it was more likely the Knights Templar than pirates due to the amount of work done. They have found a large wharf and stone pathways, and that leads me nicely to one of the more outlandish theories of the island, put forward in 1953 by Penn Leary, who put forward the idea that the Oak Island pit contains several secret manuscripts detailing William Shakespeare's true identity.
Where does that even come from? Sorry.
Like the fact that there's just been one document that says he was actually Timothy James from Burton on Heath, and that's been put in a little box and then been taken to an island off Canada.
Well, the theory goes that it's not just Tim from Burton on Heath. It's you may recognise him. The actual masterpiece creator was Sir Francis Bacon, and Oak Island is home to evidence that proves it. Apparently, so this is other theorists highlight connections between the pit and the Illuminati, such as many of the original excavators on the island were Freemasons, apparently, and suggested they were in possession of elite knowledge about the truth of the island. Author Stephen Sora speculated that the pit could have been dug by exiled Knights Templar who buried an ancient holy relic there, possibly the Ark of the Covenant, possibly the Holy Grail.
Always the Holy Grail.
Why not? Why not at this point? Yeah.
Add it to the list of places.
Although also why? Because is it just
why
to keep
this
it hidden?
island? Yeah, I guess it's pretty hidden, out of the way.
It is. But by implication, they thought that all the islands off the coast of Europe and Britain were not well hidden enough.
Not suitable.
Not suitable for burying the Holy Grail.
This is definitely more secret, though. This is the new continent. Yeah. This is the.
That's true. Yeah. And for the medieval people, it's really.
That's the thing, though. It's very difficult to get to, and very difficult for these people to return to. Yeah. So if you're burying it there, you're pretty much saying, "I'm burying it here, probably for the rest of our lives. We can't return." And human nature, if you've got something really valuable, is to kind of try and hide it, but close to you, as opposed to just taking it and burying it. Like you're not gonna hide all of your gold rings, your pimp rings. You're not gonna hide all of those in Northern Ireland, aren't you? So then you have to go over to Northern Ireland to dig them up.
I guess you're right.
You're
you're
going
right.
to say, I'm going to chuck them in Loch Ness because no one looks there.
The idea is to, if you're burying gold, or pirates would bury gold, right, in the hopes that they could come back to it later and collect it. So that's the idea, I guess. Hence the booby traps, because they actually don't want anyone to even accidentally stumble on it. They want to be able to eventually come back themselves, defuse it. When the heat's settled down a little bit, they can go back and collect it.
Exactly.
But so I admit, of the theories that have been suggested so far, pirates makes the most sense if there's treasure there, because although we can't pretend to know the motivations of the Knights Templar when they bury the Holy Grail or the Ark of the Covenant on this remote island off the coast of Canada,
or the true identity of William Shakespeare,
especially that one, the Earl of Oxford must have been really keen to not be caught.
Not keen enough to just destroy all evidence, but keen enough to bury it underground.
You don't burn documents, Alex. You bury them on another continent. I'll have you know.
Shredders hadn't been invented yet.
So the pirates thing makes the most sense. But then if pirates bury treasure and they go to all the effort to dig a very deep shaft, dozens of meters deep, protected by layers of logs that have been laid horizontally, and booby traps, that's got to be quite a treasure.
You'd expect so, wouldn't you?
It's got to be worth something, you know.
Especially if it's Marie Antoinette's brooch.
Yeah.
That's fake. That's fake already. It's almost I went to Oak Island and all I got was this lousy T-shirt. All I got was this lousy brooch.
So do we have any indication of how much this treasure might be worth?
$100 billion.
$100 million.
It depends what it is, though, because if it is like any kind of William Shakespeare's manuscripts or proof like that, it's literally priceless. And Marie Antoinette's brooch, you could never sell that kind of thing.
Yeah, well, weren't they saying about back in the day, way back when, in like the early 19th century, that potentially there was £2 million buried beneath the earth. And wasn't it a large stone on the island that was inscribed with some symbols that they basically said was they deciphered it to say here lies £2 million worth of tat.
There was a stone they found in the pit right after excavating, and it was written in code, inscribed with code. I would say deciphered to be. That stone has been lost now. I think no one knows where the stone is.
Always the case.
Always the case. But if that's the case, if it was William Kidd who died in 1701, £2 million, that would be worth like £500 million today.
I think the inscription on the stone read 40 feet below £2 million lie buried. So 40 feet, clearly either his calculations are wrong, or the gold, if it ever was there, has either been recovered, or it slipped even further down into the pit. Or maybe it was washed out to sea at this point. Apparently that would be worth hundreds of millions in today's money.
Yeah, it would be about £500 million.
Yeah, that's mad.
Just shy of £500 million, which is.
That's the thing with booby traps. If you're creating booby traps that have a tunnel leading out to sea, that's not great, is it? If you've got a load of treasure in there.
William,
they didn't think this through. Yeah.
So maybe we just need to go and look along the coastline of Oak Island to find the traces of treasure that might still be there on the seabed, and then find out the flow of the currents, and then follow that to find the bulk of the treasure.
Let's do it.
Indeed.
Let's go do it. They can continue filming their silly TV show whilst they're on the island of all places, and we can go diving, deep sea diving.
Exactly. I'm interested to know how to deep sea dive. Do you know how to deep sea dive?
No, never done it in my life.
No, we'll pick it up. We'll pick it up as we go along, I'm sure.
Easy. Have either of you been scuba diving?
No, I wanted to be a diver when I was little. You know, when people are like, what do you want to do when you grow up? When I was about 6 or 7, I wanted to be a diver.
Was it modern scuba diving in your head? Because when I was little, I read Tintin, and he was doing the old diving suit with the oxygen line to the surface where someone's manually pumping oxygen.
Oh
into your
God,
suit.
that's scary.
Oh, that sounds-
Fishbowl, fishbowl.
Oh, horrendous.
I don't
That
like
was,
that.
I think it was I had a little book where there were divers, and it was like cartoon pictures, I guess, of divers with fish and in a submarine, etc. And there was like a hole in it where you could then put in your own photo.
Mm.
So I put a little passport photo of me as a diver in this book. I was like, yeah, diving looks great. This looks great fun.
I want you to find that book, Martin. I need to see it.
It probably is at my parents' house somewhere, I imagine. Probably.
Find it for next week. We'll we need to show people now. You need to pay the tax and show people.
Yeah. With Troll.
I wonder what does everyone think in the comments though about Oak Island? Do they think there was once treasure here? Do they think that it's been discovered, or there was never treasure there? I actually quite like that theory now that we've said it. I don't think I ever even thought of that, but I like the idea that there was never any treasure there, but they were just struggling to sell the island originally. So they just scattered a few artifacts about, maybe.
I like that. I think that's a great suggestion.
Tat.
Yeah.
Some cheap tat.
Yeah, I like it. Let's go with that. Sorted. But let's go and inform the producers of Oak Island TV show. They don't have to be there anymore. It's fine.
It's okay. You're done.
Send
us instead.
Solved.
They've been going for 9 seasons. We've tackled it in about 20 minutes.
Perfect.
Nothing like armchair detective work. I love it.
Exactly.
Sweet.